of comparative cultures, and tonight we have gathered here to talk about one of the legends of Pakistani cinema, Rani, and fortunately we have Haroon Shuaib here, a dear friend. And I'm sorry, but I'll have to read his bio from my phone because I know him as a friend. And he's a well-known media and culture commentator and historian and cinema historian. And he has worked with multiple international donor agencies, and he has also been a documentary filmmaker and broadcast programmer. He writes regularly on films, music, and I have seen your programs on PTV, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, he's always there. And many national and international publications, and runs his own gallery and community space in Quetta. So I would like to invite Haroon here, and he will do his presentation, and after his presentation we'll have a Q&A session. So thank you very much. Over to you, Haroon.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Praveen, ASG members, friends, friends of ASG. Thank you for gathering here. Okay, so thank you, Ali, for the kind introduction. My name is Haroon Shuaib, and my fascination with Pakistan's cinema goes a long way back. When I was very young, and my father was posted in a small town in interior Sindh. There was a little Kent, and there was a garrison cinema there. And every weekend, our family would get a box booked, and that was the only entertainment that we were allowed within the garrison, and we would go there and watch a film. It was a small town, so not new films would come there, only old vintage films would come there. So I've seen a lot of Habib Sahab ki filmein. I don't know how many of you would remember him as a film star. He was big. Or Noor Jahan Sahiba ki I watched a lot of Noor Jahan classics there in that cinema. So that Shaheen cinema has been part of my memory and my brought up. For 4 or 5 years, every weekend was a film. So that's how I got introduced to Pakistani cinema. And a lot of people talk about the decline of cinema, and how sometimes Pakistani films were not at par with what was happening around the world in terms of the cinema production value, the stories being told, the craft. I feel that we do a little disservice by discrediting some of our really great cinema giants. And of course that was the time when I got to learn how Riaz Shahid Sahab and Khalil Kaisar Sahab, those were the directors who were making really revolutionary cinema with a lot of social commentary. So it's not that we were always doing films which were crass or which were sort of playing to the galleries, but we also had meaningful cinema in Pakistan. Unfortunately, during the 80s and later, cinema did see a decline, and we all know the reasons, and we can have another session to talk about that. But going back to my time with the Pakistani films, one of the stars who always fascinated me, when I watched her films, was Rani Begum, And the reason was that, her films, some of them were, first, they were very entertaining, mostly. And B, I also thought, in a way, now in retrospect, a lot of them were way ahead of their time. So that, I think, of course, the makers should be given a lot of credit for that, but at the same time, I think for an actress at the peak of her career to take on those kind of roles that she did in some of the films, and we will talk about those, was very brave, and I think that credit only goes to Rani. So just to set the context, I'll play a little video snippet, and we will proceed from there. And through by talking about Rani and sort of mapping her journey, her artistic and personal journey, we will also, I would like you to think a little bit about the value of cinema for a society. And I think, we often don't realize how important it is. In fact, recently when I was talking to a few media friends and we were talking about the recent escalation, that happened between India and Pakistan, and how Pakistani media content has been, sort of embargoed by India. I think, there is a very, very interesting angle there on how societies behave when they want to isolate themselves from each other. Cinema and media is the first thing that they want to cut off, that exposure. So, it's a very interesting social study, and we should think more about that. But of course, like I was saying, if you look at the cinema and you map the Pakistani cinema starting from the 50s to 60s, 70s, 80s, definitely 90s there was no cinema mostly, and then now the resurgence. You can see how it also reflects on what our society has been going through. So that way there's a lot of social relevance with the journey of cinema. So this was Lahore of 1946. I had to search a lot to actually get a photo of Lahore from 1946. This was the time, just before partition. So 1946 is the year in which Rani was born in Lahore. 46 inner city. She was actually born in Mazang area of Lahore. So if we can probably I would like to make a trip and see if any of those buildings still exist in Mazang, and some of you who are from Lahore probably would be familiar with that area. But this is the closest that I could find in an archive, a photo of old city Lahore, Mazang. Okay, a little bit about how after partition the cinema of Pakistan sort of gathered in the city of Lahore. Within this circle you will see three studios. There's Avenue Studio, there is Shahnur Studio, and then there's Bari Film Studio. So these three studios were the center of Pakistan's film industry after partition. A lot of film stars, filmmakers, technicians who were based in Lahore or who migrated to Lahore and settled there after partition were living around these studios only. These studios do not exist in their glorious form as they were once. I think only Avenue Studio and a little bit of Bari Studio is still functional. Shahnur Studio has completely gone defunct now. This was Shahnur Studio. Shahnur it is called because, of course, Madam Noor Jahan and her husband Shah Saab jo the, they inherited the studio and they set up their studio here. Actually, it was Madam Noor Jahan's property, and this was earlier called Shori Studio. But the Shori family then moved to India. They migrated to India after partition. But Madam Noor Jahan and Shaukat Hussain Rizvi Sahab, they sort of got this studio in their claim, and they set up a film company there. And this Shoris had built this studio by the earning of a film that they had done before partition, which was called Mangti. So Mangti was the film which had earned them enough to actually build this big establishment in the middle of Lahore, heart of Lahore. Madam Noor Jahan and Shaukat Hussain Rizvi Sahab were, there for some time, and then when they split, actually, just a side anecdote, when they split, there was a court case for the custody of her 3 children and the division of property, which was this studio. Ultimately, Madam Noor Jahan decided that she was going to keep the children and give the studio to Shaukat Hussain Rizvi Sahab. So he got the studio, she got the children, Zilehuma, Akbar, Asghar, the 2 sons, and his daughter, her daughter from her first marriage. So, it was a big price to pay for somebody whose life was all about films and all about, studios. But then, of course, a mother is a mother, and you can never change that. The other studio is Bari Studio. Yakke Wali was a film which was done just before partition. It was a huge hit, With that money, of course, the Bari family made Bari Studio. It's in very bad shape now, as you can see. They have tried to renovate some of it, but most of it is in really dire state. Avenue Studio, G.A. Gul Saab, he had set up the Avenue Studio, and Dulla Bhatti was a film which was a huge success and made enough money for the Gul family to set up, Avenue Studio. This was Ratan Cinema. This was in Lahore, yes. And Pakistan's first film, Teri Yaad, was actually released here in Ratan Cinema. So this was also in heart of Lahore, exists no more, unfortunately. But it was a beautiful colonial building, with plush velvet curtains and plush sofas, chairs, for people to sit on and enjoy the latest offering. Unfortunately, this cinema and single screen cinemas had a different kind of magic. I don't know how many of you have actually seen single screen cinemas. Now there are these multi-screen cinemas, where we all go to watch films. The Shaheen cinema that is part of my memories was a single screen, very simple cinema in a garrison. But Ratan was also a single screen cinema. This is the poster of Teri Yaad. Asha Bhosle was the heroine of this first ever film that was released in Pakistan. And you can see on the other side the poster of Teri Yaad. It was released on Eid Day, and that was, I think one of the first film that set this precedence of releasing films on Eid Day. And till now, we are witnessing that all the big releases actually come out on Eid Day. This Eid we will be. I hope you all are actually going to go and watch Love Guru, which is coming out. So we should all support Pakistani cinema, and I think it will be a great idea to sort of take some time out and go and watch that film. But Teri Yaad, don't forget that was the first ever Pakistani film production. And it was, Asha Bhosle and Daud Chand was the director. Again, this film was a hit, although it was released in, I think, 1948, if I'm not mistaken. And, despite the fact that, this new nation was still trying to find its footing, the film proved to be a hit, and that tells you a lot about the power of cinema and how people enjoy cinema, and it fascinates them enough to actually disconnect from the worries around them and just immerse themselves into this world of fantasy for good 2.5, 3 hours and just watch a good entertainment on big screen. So now we will start with chapter 1 of Rani's life. This on the left, the gentleman, is Agha Hashar Kashmiri. Agha Hashar Kashmiri was a playwright. He was a theatre person. His theatre company used to be one of the leading companies in undivided India. And, he was a writer. He used to write plays. He had a very lyrical style of writing. He would write these big epics, and stage them. And on the other side is Miss Mukhtar Begum. Miss Mukhtar Begum was his wife, his better half. And both of them were known to be patrons of art and culture in the undivided India. Mukhtar Begum was a very well-known singer, very well-established singer of her time, and very well-trained classical singer. And there are some recordings of her that are available online. You should look her up. I think we talk a lot about Begum Akhtar from the other side of the border, but Mukhtar Begum was no less, dare I say. So I generally listen to a lot of her work, and a lot of her recordings are part of my own personal library as well. So they were a couple, and they were the media patrons of Lahore. This is like the early years of Pakistan's existence. And Mukhtar Begum was also the one who gave Noor Jahan the name Noor Jahan. A lot of historians have actually, sort of corroborated this information that it was actually, Mukhtar Begum And Noor Jahan actually considered Mukhtar Begum to be her ideal, and she wanted to mold herself around the same sort of personality style. So Noor Jahan was there, and then Naseem Begum was another big name, for playback singing in Pakistan. She has sung some really, really beautiful songs. Again, very underrated, not talked about as much, but a beautiful singer. And Naseem Begum also was a discovery of Mukhtar Begum. So, that is how she was patronizing this whole new industry of Pakistani cinema. And of course, Farida Khanum on the other side. Farida Khanum was the younger sister of Mukhtar Begum. So, a real sister. Sorry? Behin, yes, real sister of Mukhtar Begum. So, these were the contributions of Mukhtar Begum to Pakistani cinema and Pakistan's music industry. So Mukhtar Begum and her husband Agha Hashar jo the, they were living in Lahore, and they had a driver. His name was Sarfaraz. At some places it's called, his name is recorded as Shafi, but at some other places his name is recorded as Sarfaraz. Anyway, he was their driver, and used to drive around Madam wherever she needed to go. And the family used to live in the quarters of this big bungalow that they had in Lahore. Shafi had a few children already, and then he had a daughter. He was blessed with a daughter. So when Begum Mukhtar saw that daughter, she said, "Can I please adopt this child?" Because she had beautiful eyes, she was a lovely child, and Begum Mukhtar then adopted that child. The child's name was Nasra. Begum Mukhtar said that I will raise her to be a singer. She will carry on my legacy. So that child was given to Mukhtar Begum. The Mukhtar Begum and Agha Hashar then moved to Karachi with the child, and the other family, the servant, was left behind, the driver. That child grew up to be Rani. Her name was Nasra, but then she was given a screen name as Rani. Yeah. So this was Rani in her younger years, and she was. So Mukhtar Begum wanted her to be a singer like herself, but Rani's heart was not in singing. She wanted to learn dance, and she wanted to always be acting and sort of throwing herself out there on stage, and in her school she was always participating in these cultural shows and whatnot. But she didn't have the singing voice, and Mukhtar Begum soon realized that, and she decided that maybe singing was not for her, and she should be groomed to be on the screen as a heroine. And that's what she did. She decided that she was going to launch Rani in the film industry on screen. This was a press conference that was done at that time. You would see Farida Khanum ji sitting there as well, and then of course Mukhtar Begum and Rani when she was introduced to the media for the first time as this new heroine that is being launched. And we have Kamal Pasha Sahab there as well, who was the director of the first film where Rani was going to star. And I have a recording of the first radio interview that Begum Mukhtar and Rani gave, where Rani was introduced. So let's hear a little clip of that interview, if you would allow me.
सुनने वालों की मुलाकात स्टेज और फिल्म की नामवर आर्टिस्ट मुख्तार बेगम और उनकी लड़की फिल्म स्टार रानी मुख्तार से करवा रही है। मुख्तार बेगम अपने ज़माने की चोटी की मुगन्निया और स्टेज एक्ट्रेस शुमार की जाती रही थी। ये माए नाज ड्रामा नवीस आगा हशर कश्मीरी मरहूम की बीवी है। मुख्तसर तौर पर ये कहा जा सकता है कि मुख्तार बेगम आगा हशर मरहूम की दास्तान जिंदगी का एक जीता जागता किरदार थी। फिल्म स्टार रानी मुख्तार ने अपनी फिल्मी जिंदगी का आगाज फिल्म महबूब से किया। आजकल रानी मुख्तार घर का चिराग, इंसान बनो, जेवर महल और आजाद जैसी फिल्मों में काम कर रही है। अगरचे रानी मुख्तार ने अभी तक चंद फिल्मों में काम किया है, लेकिन हर फिल्म में उनकी सलाहियतें नुमायां नजर आती हैं। इस सिलसिले आपकी मुलाकात मुख्तार बेगम और उनकी लड़की रानी मुख्तार से करवा रही हैं।
रानी साहब ये बताइए कि फिल्मों में जिंदगी कैसे शुरू की थी आपने?
मुझे तो बचपन से ही शौक था पिक्चर में काम करने का, क्योंकि मेरी माँ खुद एक बड़ी आर्टिस्ट है, तो मैंने कई पिक्चर में काम किया। ये तो मिशन में
सुनने वालों की मुलाकात
Oh, sorry.
स्टेज और फिल्म की
Anyway, I'll sort of go to the next slide. What Rani says in this clip is that when he asks her what kind of roles do you aspire to do, she says, I love tragedy and I want to do tragedy roles in films. And I think that's where she did a sort of manifestation. We talk a lot about the power of manifestation now, but she manifested that in her own life there was a lot of tragedy that she was going to see. And I think she also talks about her love for fast driving. A lot of people in Karachi, Nazimabad, they have when I was doing the research, I came across somebody who used to live next door to Mukhtar Begum in Nazimabad and area, and they told me that Rani used to drive this red sports car like car, and she used to drive like mad. She was like such a fast driver. I think that recklessness, that love for adventure, that rebelliousness, and that love for tragedy, I think it stayed on with her life. So Mehboob was the first film that Rani appeared in. This is the poster. Some of you would remember the song Nigahein Mila Ke Badal Jane Wale. This was a song from this film, Mehboob. And actually, Shamimara, who was another great actress of her time, was playing the lead role, and Rani was in a side role. Rani was so good in dancing that she was dedicated to these roles where she would have a dance number always. And at that time, generally the heroine would not do those kind of dances, so there had to be another character to do that bit. And then the heroine would always be that Sachi Savitri, the docile, domesticated, good girl. So Shamimara was playing that girl, and Rani was playing the more risk and brave, rebellious type character in Mehboob. Okay. So after that, as you heard in the interview also, Rani did a few other films, but this was in I think 1962 until 1967. Despite the fact that Rani had starred in 14-15 films, she had not given any hit, definitely not as the main heroine. She was always cast as a side character. And it was so bad that people had started sort of labeling her as a jinxed actress. Till 1967, she was not known to be, somebody who could actually shoulder a whole film and carry it through the box office. But then Hasan Tariq came in her life. Hasan Tariq was a director who had done some good work. He had studied abroad and had returned to Pakistan and was, again got attached to film industry and wanted to make good, meaningful cinema. And when he saw Rani, he decided that he was going to make more films with her than anybody else. And I think that partnership developed when Devar Bhabhi was a film. I don't know how many of you would remember that. Of course, Devar Bhabhi was a film with Wahid Murad and Sabia Khanam, Santosh was there, and Rani was Wahid Murad's heroine in that. That became Rani's first big hit. She was recognized for her acting talent, for her dance, for her grace on screen, and after that there was no looking back for Rani. So when people say that Pakistan has not seen better cinema and better directors and better performers, I tend to disagree. If you look at the setting, the set itself, the lighting, the way Wahid Murad used to picturize a song, the way Rani can be seen here romancing, It's so beautiful and so nostalgic. I don't know how people miss that, and don't give credit to all those people. By the way, just as a matter of interest, in 1959, Jago Hua Savera was released, written by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, and it was the first Oscar entry from Pakistan. Just for your information. And the other feature-length film that was sent from Pakistan ever was Ghungat, and this was done by Khwaja Khurshid Anwar, who was a musician par excellence. I think Pakistan has not seen a musician of his caliber. So Khwaja Khurshid Anwar, who was also the director and writer, producer for this film Ghungat, he also was a great music composer. So 1962, his Ghungat also went for an Oscar nomination, So both these films, unfortunately, Jago Hua Savera, which was written by Faisa but made in East Pakistan at that time, got banned because of, I don't know, I've seen it, it's available online. You guys should look it up and see it. Yes, it's available. Jago Hua Savera is a very, very interesting story about classism. And because it was about East Pakistan, so it's about a fisher people's community, and how their boats are mortgaged, and how the moneyed guy is trying to exploit them. So very interesting story. And of course, there was no political content, but just because it was such a strong commentary on classism that the government felt that it's going to cause unrest if it's seen by too many people, so they banned it. So it's a very interesting case study in itself, and it's available online, so do look it up. Ghungat, of course, not Sabia Khanam, Nayyar Sultana Sahiba played the main role in this. If people who do not know Nayyar Sultana was an actress who was known for her grace, her poise. She was, of course, long hair. And she belonged to the same family. She was married to Darpan, who was brother of Santosh. Santosh was married to Sabia Khanam. So this was the first family of Pakistani cinema, And of course, the younger brother Suleiman, who was married to Zari Panna, that we did a session with recently. Zari lives in Lahore, and she has a lot of memories of that time, and she keeps sharing it with us. Whenever we request, we invite her over. So Zari Panna and Nayyar Sultana and Sabia Khanam. These three heroines were married to the three brothers, from that family. Devar Bhabhi, Hassan Tariq Sahab ki film, it was a big hit, like I was saying, and Rani got noticed. Sabia Khanam was playing Bhabhi, Wahid Murad was the, Devar, of course, and then there was Santosh Saab and Rani. If you look at the credits, one very interesting thing, as I show you all these posters, I want you to notice is how the heroine's name is always mentioned before the heroes, which is for very, very different from how you would see Hollywood credits. Now I don't know if it's a heroine-centric film, maybe, but for the longest time, the hero's name, of course, was at the top of the credit list. But here, you would see that even at that time, the heroines were mentioned before the hero's name. So we have Sabiha, and then we have Wahid Murad, then we have Rani, and Lahiri, and Santosh Kumar. Interesting anecdote and something that I wanted to draw your attention towards. Okay, so now we come to the chapter 3 of Rani's life. We talk about the men in her life. This was Saki. I don't know how many of you know Saki. There were two Sakis in Pakistan's film industry. There was, of course, a villain Saki, and then there was Inayat Hussain Bhatti's brother Saki. He was also a hero. He used to come as a hero in films. And Rani did a few films with him. He was considered a playboy by the industry, and Rani actually fell for him. And she thought that he was serious about her, and they wanted to get married, and I'm sure he led her on, but of course he didn't mean to marry her, and she was very, very heartbroken after that. People talked about it. There was a lot of chatter Mukhtar Begum was very unhappy because she had just launched Rani, she had started making it big, and then this Saki guy was like, on the scene. Ghalib, Kamal Sahab. Kamal Sahab, the blue-eyed boy of Pakistan's film industry. He was very handsome. I have seen his film with Shamim Ara. I think it was called Chalte Chalte or something, where they're both in a car and there's this song. And, I vaguely remember it from my childhood. I'd seen it in that Shaheen cinema. I even remembered the lyrics. Now I'm forgetting it. My memory is failing me. But Kamal Sahab was also with Rani in a lot of films. And they also made a beautiful pair, and there was some chatter that, they were also romantically involved at one time. In fact, when, much later in her life, Rani was not well and she was suffering from a serious disease. Kamal Sahab actually, specially came down from Karachi to Lahore to meet her and see her. So they had a lot of affection and fondness for each other. Muhammad Ali Sahab, उनको वो हमेशा अली भाई कहती थी. Muhammad Ali Sahab was always Ali Bhai for a lot of his heroines, So Muhammad Ali Sahab also did a lot of films with Rani, and their pairing was also liked by the audience. And the notorious Shahid. Shahid was also considered a playboy. He did a lot of films with Rani. In fact, a couple of years ago, I don't know how many of you would remember, he did an interview with his son, Kamran Shahid, in which he caused a controversy by saying that, there was a lot of liking from Rani's side for him. And then Rani's daughter came out and, said that it wasn't the case. I don't know why he's saying that. Rani always considered him a brother. But, so just by the way, I thought I'll mention that. Shahid Sahab, as he was considered, this really, really likable poster boy of his time, and he had that persona, he had that personality, and he also played it up to the galleries that he was somebody who was always flirting with his co-stars. So there was a lot of chatter about Rani and Shahid at that time. So in terms of, her love life, the first marriage that Rani had, and we'll talk about it in chapter 4, was with Hasan Tariq. This is Hasan Tariq. He was a director, like I mentioned earlier, who had come from abroad. He had studied filmmaking in West and worked for some time in a US film company. And then he came to Pakistan, and then, he started making films here. And he made a lot of films with Rani. Like I said, I think Rani got her big break and she became a full-fledged heroine with Hasan Tariq Sahab. Thanks to his productions, he gave her a lot of attention, groomed her in a way where she could also discover her own potential. And she learned what suits her in terms of the costumes, the hairstyles. If you would see Rani before Hasan Tariq and after Hasan Tariq, you would see that there's a marked difference. So they got married and they had a child, Rabia, a baby girl, and but the marriage didn't last very long, and they had a divorce. I think the marriage was on for 3 years or 4 years. This is Rabia in her younger days, and 4 years of marriage with Hasan Saab, and then they got separated. But with Hasan Saab, Rani did the best of her work. Some of her best films are with Hasan Saab, undoubtedly, and we will talk about some of them. This next one is called Anjuman, the film, and some of you would remember Anjuman. There was a remake also, I think in the early 2000s, there was a remake for television with Imran Abbas, and I think, there was a TV actress who played Rani's role. It's a very interesting one where, Rani's playing a courtesan, and both the brothers, Santosh Kumar and his younger brother, I think it was Shahid and Santosh, both of them fall in love with the same courtesan. And, it's a very interesting story, what happens. But we'll just play a little bit of this song, because I want you to see how Hassan Tariq Sahab had discovered this new Rani and repackaged her whole personality on screen. Of course, we can continue watching it, but just wanted to sort of refresh your memories, and the ones who have not seen it before, just wanted to entice them enough to look it up and watch her work, because again, something that I always want you to keep in mind is that despite the lack of resources, despite the lack of budgets, despite the lack of latest technology, probably available even at that time, to other cinema industries, Pakistan industry was much more disadvantaged. But at the same time, the creative caliber of the artists and the filmmakers was so high that they could produce something like that, where the camera could move like this, where the sets could be built like that, where the artists could still tell stories like this so convincingly. And you got to see Rani dance, and you could see that she was, of course, a very well-trained, prolific dancer. So we got to see that in this song clip as well. A little bit about the kind of roles that she played in her life. You would see in Pakistan and India, the concept of the snakes becoming humans and humans turning into snakes, is very, very common. We have all seen films like that from both sides of the border, where the heroine is actually a snake and then she transforms into a woman, or vice versa. Rani did films like that quite a lot. Nagmani was one film that Nagmani was a film where she was playing a snake, who becomes a human and then falls in love with Wahid Murad, and then she prays to God at the end, I think, that let her be a woman for life, and then she discards her past as a snake. So Rani used to play that with a lot of conviction, because she had beautiful eyes, and they used to use her eyes to the max for roles like that. There were 2-3 films where she played the same trope of woman snake interchangeability. Then, of course, her fashion sense. Let's talk a little bit about that. The jewelry, the costumes that she used to get designed for herself, and there are recorded narrations of actresses like Mumtaz we were talking about. There used to be a fashion designer called Rakshi in film industry at that time, who used to design most of the costumes for the top class heroines. And she used to have a special time dedicated to Rani, because Rani was, a perfectionist. And Rakshi used to design a lot for Rani. And Mumtaz, when they say that, during one of her films, when she didn't have costumes, she actually was told to go to Rani and request her to lend her some of her costumes. And so, and Rani was such a big-hearted soul, honestly, that she actually decided that, Mumtaz could take whatever she wanted to wear. So even at that time, I don't know how many of you have tried these kind of hairdos and the makeup with the wing-eyed eyeliners, but she used to set the trend for the girls of her time, and people used to go to cinema. I remember that, I have some photos of my mother, where she's wearing these sleeveless saris, and then, those chalwars with long panchas, and she used to wear those, and those whenever she would go out with my dad, she would be really dressed. And when I was looking through the photos of Rani, I could see a lot of the same kind of fashion that my mom used to do in the 70s and late 70s, early 80s. So interesting. She was a Lux girl, and she did a couple of ads actually for Lux. It's interesting, if you actually, there should be a talk just about the Lux girls of Pakistan, because from Sabiha Khanam to Nayyar Sultana to Rani and Shabnam and Babra, of course, we have seen on television actually, her ad running. But even before that, all of them, all the top actresses, and used to be featuring in Lux ads. Those were called Lux girls. And I have a huge collection of all those photos of different Lux ads that were printed in newspapers and film magazines and so on. And we can probably do another session just on the Lux girls and how the Lux ads progressed over time. But Rani was, of course, one of the prominent ones who featured on Lux ads. And Lux toilet साबुन हुस्न में दिलकशी लाता है, film star Rani कहती है. I adore international Lux. It's simply wonderful for my complexion, says lovely film star Rani. So she did a series of Lux ads, both in English and Urdu, and they used to get printed in different film magazines and social magazines. And once a heroine had featured in a Lux ad, she would be considered, a superstar. And here, as you can see, there's Ghulam Mahyuddin at the back, who was a hero at that time, and Rani. She's holding a magazine, and on the magazine cover is her own photo, actually. So this was the time when Rani had made it. She was being featured on the covers of different film magazines and social magazines and fashion magazines of her time. So it's from a set, from a film set. And this was a time when artists started painting her. She became iconic, Rani was an icon by that time. Okay, so what happened was, taking you back to the story of Mukhtar Begum. Mukhtar Begum was diagnosed with cancer, and she went to London to get her treatment. And this was the time when Rani had really made it big. She was the leading lady of Pakistan's film screen. Rani decided to pick up all her belongings and move back with her parents, Iqbal Begum and Sarfraz Sahab, and she left Mukhtar Begum's house. People say that it was because of, the controlling streak in Mukhtar Begum's personality, and especially control over purse. But, we don't know for sure. But by the time Mukhtar Begum got cured and came back, she got to know that Rani had left the house and emptied the locker. She was very, very upset, of course, and they say at one point, while Rani was shooting in, I think, Shahnoor's studio, Mukhtar Begum barged in and she confronted Rani, and she said, you will see what you have done to me, same thing will come back, the karma will come back and bite you. And unfortunately, in the later years of her life, Rani was also diagnosed with cancer, and she couldn't survive, because of that disease. But this is, again, something that I thought, you would find fascinating, of how the stars had as much drama in their personal life happening. Mera Ghar Meri Jannat, again a film which was very, very different. Rani played a very important role in it. And I want to talk about these films, these few films that I'm going to mention, because here Rani started asserting herself to do and dictate the kind of roles that she wanted to do. Anjuman and Nagmani we have already talked about. Babul was another film which was a big hit. She got a Nigar Award for Babul. Nigar Award, for those of you who do not know, were the Filmfare Awards of Pakistan. Unfortunately, they were discontinued in late 90s. But Rashdi Sahab was a person who used to head Pakistan National Film and NEFDEC. I don't know what it stood for, but NEFDEC was Rashdi Saab's brainchild. He nurtured that institution. It used to promote films. It was the film controlling authority in Pakistan. And he also, sort of ran this magazine on the side. And then he had this award, annual award, which was called Nigar Award. And, it was like really, really prestigious for people to win Nigar Awards. Anjuman we have talked about. Umrao Janada, a lot of you were remembering Umrao Janada when we were talking. Mirza Hadi Ruswa's novel, Umrao Janada. 3 films have been made in subcontinent just on the same story. We have Rekha's Umrao Janada, of course, we have all seen it. We have Rani's Umrao Janada, and then we have Aishwarya Rai's Umrao Janada. And I leave the judgment to you, who played it the best. I personally think that Rani, despite the Punjabiness of it all, of course, Rao Janada was set in Lucknow, in that kind of background. Lekin, despite the fact that this was being made in Lahore with mostly Punjabi actors, I think Rao Janada of Rani had a lot more drama, a lot more pizzazz, if you can call it that, and it was very, very interesting to watch. Very interestingly, there was a climax song in this film, "Jo bacha tha wo lutane ke liye aaye hain, aakhri geet sunane ke liye aaye hain." And they say that when this film came out, a lot of courtesans of Lahore, women who were supposed or who were considered to not be of respectable background, they found a lot of catharsis in that song. And they say that after that song, a lot of women from that area actually sort of found a way to get out of that cycle, and got married. A lot of them got married to whoever they were in love with. People sort of started understanding the trauma that a woman had to go through while living in that kind of in those kind of circumstances. So in a way, that film, I think, brought a lot of depth to Rani's personality as well. She understood the social issues and the society around her, and how it was not it was exploiting women in many ways. Very interestingly, in this film, when Hasan Tariq was making this film, he wanted Khalil Sahab to make the music for this film. He thought Khalil Sahab had a better understanding of the kind of music this film demanded. But Rani was very good friends with I'm forgetting, Nisar Bazmi Sahab. Sorry, thank you. So Nisar Bazmi Sahab came to Rani and said, "Madam, I've heard that Hasan Tariq Sahab is making this film. Can I be the music producer of this film, or music director?" Rani was like, "Yes, sure, I'll talk to him." So when she went and talked to Hasan Tariq and said that, instead of Khalil Sahab, Khalil Ahmed, I want you to take Nisar Bazmi Sahab as the music director. Hasan Tariq was like, "That's not going to happen. I'm the director. I'll tell who the music director of the film will be." So Rani then said, "Then choose another heroine for yourself." And that's when he said, "No, but I've written this role, I've conceived this film around you, for you." So she said, "Then, the music director will have to be of my choice." And then that's when, Nisar Bazmi Sahab, who wasn't that well known to do these kind of, court numbers and, mujra numbers, he was taken on board to do the music for Rao Janada. And of course, the rest is history. We know how beautiful the songs were and how well received they were, and what a magic they were able to create on big screen and in cinemas. Tehzeeb was another film where she, as a feminist, came out. This was about the clash of westernization and the Eastern conservative values. Beautiful film. It's also available online. I've watched it much later in my life, but I think again, Shahid Saab is playing his signature kind of role, but Rani is fabulous in this role. Suraiya Bhupali is my favorite of Rani's films. I don't know if any one of you has seen Suraiya Bhupali. Suraiya Bhupali is so beautiful. It's set in Bhopal, with Bhopali language or accents at least being picked up. And for Rani to be a Punjabi, never having lived in Bhopal, to pick up that kind of lingo for her dialogue delivery tells you how dedicated she was to her craft. Beautiful film, Suraiya Bhupali. Aapki Khatir was towards the end of her career, so you can see that from Saki up to Rahat Kazmi, she has worked with a whole range of heroes. So we get to see Nadeem Saab ke saath bhi ek do filmein hain, but I was like, how many posters can I show? I do want to show a clip from Suraiya Bhupali because I just love Rani in this one. Oh, sorry, I got immersed in it, and I forgot that I had to stop it way earlier. But you saw her jewelry. You saw the little movements that she was doing with her fingers. You saw the finesse with which she presented herself, emoted emotions on screen. That was Rani. She looked beautiful. She looked classic in whatever role she played. And, you know, this was, I think, finest of Rani. Okay. Yes, in all her glory, this is the beautiful Rani. Look at the eyelashes, you know, and the jewelry. She used to have beautiful jewelry, and you know, again, like a lot of time, like the costumes that she used to get made for herself, the jewelry, of course, was very signature Rani, and she was very open-hearted and always ready to share it with her friends and colleagues. We just heard Suraya Bhupali. That was actually Nahid Akhtar's voice, for those of you who couldn't figure that out. Nahid Akhtar used to be a singer, and now she has been out of focus for a long time. Yes, but here you can see Nahid Akhtar sitting there, and there's Zeba, and there's Rani, and there's Shabnam, of course, at the back. You know, so this is a beautiful photo, and it shows you how, you know, the fraternity was closely connected. They had friends, they used to hang out. And like I said, Rani was always there to open everyone with welcome, with open arms. This is Runa, Leila, and Rani. You know, these were the voices which were always doing background songs for Rani, and you know, these were all voices which suited her to the hilt. And here you can see a very young Runa, Leila standing next to Rani. And this is Noor Jahan, of course. Madam ke saath bhi Rani ki ek special bond thi. And when we talk about, you know, jo bacha tha wo lutane ke liye aaye hain, that's Noor Jahan's voice. And this is Babra Sharif. So this is Babra Sharif and Rani doing a dance-off. Dance-offs were big at that time. Till recently, I think the last dance-off we got to see was in Bajirao Mastani between Priyanka Chopra and Deepika it was. So yeah, dance-offs even at that time were big. There was one which is really nice, and you should look that up. That is between Zari Panna, we talked about her earlier, and Amy Minwala, who was also a very good classical dancer. Both of them very well-trained dancers. So they also did a dance-off, you know, and it was Ahmed Bashir Saab's film, Neela Parbat. Ahmed Bashir is Bushra Ansari's father. You know, he made a film, and yes, and you know, Neela Parbat it was called, and in that there was a dance-off between Zari Panna and Amy Minwala. You should look that up. Okay, so the song that we have been talking about, Jo Bacha Tha Wo Lutane Ke Liye Aaye Hain. Shall we play this for a little bit? Okay. Sorry, I'll have to stop because there's a lot that I need to cover. So this was Rani, and this was the climax song of Umrao Jaan, and you saw Shahid. And you know, this was the song where, you know, she dances till she drops. And this went on like this. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about, you know, the feminism in the cinema, in Pakistani cinema. Starting from Neend, Noor Jahan was the heroine of this film. I say that, you know, it has a feminist theme because, you know, I saw the film, and Noor Jahan and Neelo, you know, the kind of camaraderie they showed in that film, you know, standing up for other women. I think it was beautifully depicted in this film. It's a beautiful film. Saheli was another one which also had, you know, feminist themes in it. Society Girl with Sangeeta was a film, you know, which was way ahead of its times, and, you know, considered, you know, something like feminist agenda. Varna, of course, you know, I want to talk about. In recent times, we have seen Shuaib Mansoor Saab did this film with Mahira, and, you know, Bin Badal Barsat I wanted to show you because, you know, this was a film which was done by a crew that only consisted of women. So the director was Zeenat. Even the film, the music was given by a music director called Shameen Nazli. I've been trying to find more about her because that's the only one credit that I've been able to find in her career. I've not seen her name appear anywhere else. I don't know if it was a pseudonym for a male music director maybe, but, you know, it is said that, you know, even the music director was a female for this film. So Bin Badal Barsat was the film in which even the technicians, the camera, the music, everything was done by women. So Pakistan was probably, in a way, not that far behind when it came to discourse of feminism on cinema and big screen. Rani was, of course, leading the wave. She was doing what nobody had ever done before. And in her roles, in her personal life, in her photo shoots for magazines, she always came across as somebody who pushed the envelope. Films, Hai Shohar, there was a film called Hai Shohar that Rani did, and which was again way ahead of her time. Its time, because Rani was playing this westernized working woman who was very, very independent, feisty, and she didn't take any bullshit from her husband, and she also motivated women around her to not sort of budge in. Sita, Mariam, Margaret, Rani played a triple role in this. Sita was, of course, a Hindu girl, Mariam was a Muslim, and Margaret was a Christian girl. If you have seen Amar Akbar Anthony, we were actually talking about this the other day, that a film like Amar Akbar Anthony can never be made in India now, where three brothers are actually raised in different faiths and still stand up for each other. Here, Rani was doing Sita, Mariam, Margaret. Then there is Aurat Raj. This was about gender reversal, role reversals. Wahid Murad was the husband who used to beat his wife every evening once he come back from the office. And one day Rani, who was the wife, prayed to the Almighty that, may he understand what it is like to be a woman. The next morning they wake up, Wahid Murad is the woman, Rani is the man, and then, the whole world actually, switches gender roles. Sultan Rahi becomes a woman in this film. He's dressed up as a woman, he's wearing a wig, and he is a man who has turned into a woman in Rani's fantasy. So this film was way, way ahead of her time, and Rani decided to do this role, and she did it beautifully. Begum John, a child out of wedlock in this film. Rani played a role of a woman who comes from the mountains, and she's going from house to house to sell clothes, unstitched fabric, and she falls in love with a man who promises her marriage, and she ends up becoming a mother, and the man backtracks on his promise of the marriage, but she decides to keep the child. I've seen this film recently actually again, and I thought, how did they accept all this, What was the society like when this film was released, And it's a beautiful story of how Rani then, sort of stands her ground and, goes to the police, reports about this man. Of course, there's a lot of fantasy because the man is actually, arrested by the police for this crime, which I don't think even there is such a law that can actually hold men responsible like that. But of course, this was a film, and Rani played that role. I can't imagine any other heroine of her time actually doing this role other than Rani. Yes. Arman had the same kind of, but they sanctitize it quite a lot, towards the end. Zeba and Wahid. Yeah. Ek Guna Aur Sahi, Sabia Khanam was playing Mummy in this film, and Rani was this girl who was being groomed to be a society girl. Society girl was like this tag of being a fast girl, a girl who's like, exploiting men to get favors. So, this was another beautiful film, Ek Guna Aur Sahi, with Muhammad Ali Saab in it as well. Ek Gana, Chota Sa, and just focus on the lyrics of the song. the lyrics are actually telling you that, this girl, and I think Muhammad Ali Saab, if I remember correctly, was playing the father. This girl is actually shaming him for abandoning her as a child. Interestingly, there were two very iconic relics that were unearthed in Mohenjo-daro. There was the priest and the dancing girl of Mohenjo-daro. We have the priest, and India took away the dancing girl of Mohenjo-daro, so it actually is placed in Delhi Museum now. Yes, so that is also quite telling. Okay, this was Rani. Again, like I was saying, she was breaking a lot of boundaries. She was pushing the envelope. She was doing a lot of roles on screen, off screen. The way she would dress would also say a lot about, how independent she was as a person. Okay. So Sarfaraz Nawaz, everyone remembers that, they were husband and wife for some time. After Hasan Tariq, there was another Mia Javed Kamar Sahab, who was a film producer. Rani was married to him for some time too. And I've confirmed it from different sources. He was from Faisalabad, and they say that, Rani, once she contracted the marriage with him, went to Faisalabad with him. His family threw her out of the house immediately. And, Rani had to actually escape for her life because he also, of course, had another wife at home, and his family refused to accept her. She ran back to Lahore and started doing her films again. It was much later in her life that she came across Sarfaraz Nawaz. Some accounts say that, by the time she met Sarfaraz, she already knew that she had contracted cancer, and that, she was going through the treatment. But, we don't know for sure. They were married for some time. It was big news. She was all over magazines. Everybody was talking about Sarfaraz and Rani's union. And, full credit to Sarfaraz Nawaz. During her illness, he stood by her side, even though they separated. I'm not sure if they were divorced officially or not till she passed away. But, he was always there for her. And even at her funeral, Sarfaraz Nawaz was there as her spouse. She also did a little bit of political canvassing for Sarfaraz when he had joined Pakistan People's Party. And that's when, from the Lahore constituency, I remember I went to my Mamu's house. He used to live in Tazaba Hata, which is like the interior of Lahore. And he had a big photograph of Bibi. Of course, at that time, the fascination, this was early 90s, Benazir had just come back to Pakistan. There was a lot of fascination with Benazir, and, people were like supporting People's Party. It was that time. Rani was, from the same constituency, Tazabahata. She was canvassing with the women for Sarfaraz Nawaz at that time. A lot of people said that, Rani was asked by Sarfaraz to start wearing a dupatta at this time. If you notice, Benazir actually, is wearing a dupatta on her head. Rani is not. She refused. She said, people come and listen to me because they know me as an actress, as a film star, as their idol, and I'm not going to change that. And she used to always be in public gatherings and rallies, just like herself, and she refused to put on the dupatta on her head. Interesting. And then she went on television. Films, Pakistani films, especially Urdu films, had stopped. The production had stopped. So, there wasn't much to do in cinema. She had moved to television. There were 3 dramas that she did. Fareeb, Khwahish, I remember. There was another one in which she acted. And people were ecstatic. I don't know how many of you remember any of those serials. But she was on television, and people couldn't believe that, film star Rani in a television, Pakistan television drama. And she looked glamorous, she looked beautiful, radiant, and she was so very different from how we had seen our drama heroines or actresses. She had brought that glamour to Pakistan's drama industry. So she did that, and by that time, I think, it was during Fareeb that, she really, really was unwell, and she had to go back to UK for her treatment. But her glamour is what we remember. Look at the hair, the makeup, Even for that time, her fashion sense was immaculate, always well dressed, well photographed. And then, this is Rabia. This is Aapki Khatir, Rani wearing the same sari, and Rabia, her daughter now, wearing the same sari and paying a tribute to her mother. Rabia was the only child that Rani had, and she's an NCA grad, and she lives in Gujranwala now, and she is an artist, and she keeps creating art. This is Rani's grave. Iqbal Begum is the mother, the biological mother that she had, who passed away, a couple of months after Rani passed away. Walida Rani Sahiba, it's written. Of course, the film industry could, could never recover from the loss of Rani. Here you can see a lot of very well-known faces. There's Diba, there's Babra Sharif, Shabnam, of course. Neeli is there, Madam Noor Jahan is, of course, sitting there. And Sarfraz Namaz is actually, there as well. And this was all the news that I could gather of her passing away being announced, and how the studios that we talked about right at the beginning, how they were all closed for 3 days, mourning the loss of the queen of silver screen, Rani. This is Rabia now in some of her artwork. She recently did an exhibition, and Reema who was in Pakistan, especially went to sort of that art exhibition as well. This is some of the art. The iconic Rani has been used as an iconic symbol by many artists, and she has become this symbol of defiance, of sort of independence for women of a certain generation. This is Rabia's art paying homage to her mother. Here too. So this ribbon of dreams that we talk about, the cinema, the magical cinema, the experience of actually going and sitting with a whole community, and then getting disconnected from your reality and getting time transported and space transported into another alternate reality. That's the magic of cinema. And I hope and pray that Pakistani cinema can again find its own language, own footing, and can start making films like that again and start telling stories that way. And we have many more Ranis, queens who come and reign on this medium too. So thank you very much. You've been a patient audience. I hope. Thank you. The best part is that every time I do this talk and presentation, and I go back and start researching a little bit more, there are new things that keep getting added. There are people who have memories and they share them. So, definitely I would like to hear from you guys also. If you have memories of Rani, which film has talked to you, which film has stayed with you. So please do share. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take those. So raise your hand. Ali, please take over. Yeah, I'm here.
Well, yes. Thank you very much, Haroon. Haroon, before we start, we opened. I just had a few questions which you have partly answered about your interest in cinema. You started with that, and my question before I opened it to the public was your particular interest in Rani, and when you said about the feminist part of Rani, because feminism I would refer to Fawzia Said's book Taboo, where she says that that a certain stratum of the society which is matriarchal, which lives within a patriarchal society. So there, when you talk about that, what was that film's name?
Aurat Raj.
Aurat Raj. So how do you view that in a patriarchal society, and what kind of feminism is that saying from today's point of view?
I think it's very revolutionary. It's very revolutionary. I think Aurat Raj, and there are references of similar stories in our literature, and it's actually an indication when one gender would try to put themselves into the shoes of the other, and sort of empathize. And I think when you talked about taboo and the particular start of society where the society is matriarchal, I think these women, and a lot of them I can talk about, for example, Madame Noor Jahan, we talked about how she was ready to let go of this huge chunk of property just because she was so independent, and she knew that money doesn't matter, she will still be able to take care of her children. These are very, very independent, strong women that we have had in our cinema industry, and full marks to them. They have held themselves with grace, they have lived life on their own terms, and I have a lot of respect for all of them. And I think that way they have defied the gender roles that we conventionally assign to the two different genders. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Then we'll come to you. Yeah, please.
You're saying this, but most of them were exploited by their families, and they had no role or no choice.
I agree, and I think for a certain stage in their life, they actually turn the tables. Even in Rani's case, Madame Noor Jahan's case, I don't think anybody could actually exploit Madame Noor Jahan when she had reached a certain stature. I'm sure there was.
Too late then. Choice to be made.
Yeah.
I'm talking about a mature woman. I'm talking about a young girl.
Yes. But when it comes to Madam also, or when we talk about Rani, as you heard, when she was launched, there was a lot of flair for creative assertion. There was a lot of creativity in these women, and that is like probably in my family. My mother used to learn Bharatnatyam from Indu Mithaji way back when my father was in Kumilla. But she never ever told us about it till much later in life. And I was like, I can't imagine my mom ever actually doing Bharatnatyam. But there was a time.
And actually, I did also.
Yeah. So I think we denied our women that creative liberty much more than situations like these where they could pursue their creative dreams.
Thank you. Just a second. We had a question from Madhya, then Rabe, and then you, please. Yeah,
I
Madhya.
have a question, but I want to share memory. You were talking about single screen cinema. The earliest childhood memory that I have is of driving cinema in Karachi.
There was one.
Two opposite to each other.
Oh, two.
And it used to be like a picnic.
Yes.
And what I could remember, the first movie that I watched with my whole family and the speakers on the side, we were just spread out ready and would take edibles with us. Was Direct Havildar. And then Khayyam Cinema in BCHS Karachi.
Right.
So, and then in Quetta, my one, I watched this movie, that was an English movie, and that was after a long time of saturation. We didn't go to cinema at all because the remnants of Zalkats was there, and our parents won't take us. So it was, I was taken with by my husband, and we sat in the gallery, and as soon as they switched off the lights, I said, whoa, light again. Because I had no idea that, in a cinema they have to switch on the lights. So yes, sweet dreams.
Yeah.
Sweet memories.
And that's the magic of the cinema.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think we'll have a few more questions. Rabia, you, and then after you, please. Yeah, Rabia.
I'll have my teachers speak.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was very enjoyable. I have two queries. I want to know whether Rani's adopted, the parents who adopted her, did they have any other children of their own?
Not that I know of.
And two, wasn't she put in school? Was she educated?
I think she was 16 when she came into film industry, 16 or 17. So she was educated, but probably just a high school level education, not beyond that.
But she was very intelligent.
She was, of course. Yeah.
Usman, just a second. I think we'll take last three questions. Lady there, and then we'll come to you, Usman. Yes, please.
Most exciting
And then after.
presentation. I just wanted to share actually memories of seeing Rani with Hasan
Uh-huh.
in Lahore. Our family home is in Muslim Town, and Santosh Kumar's first wife, before Satya Khanam. Their family home was in Muslim town, like literally 5 minutes walk from our home. And his daughter from his first wife, he had 2 daughters and 1 son, Santosh Kumar, was with me in Queen Mary School.
Okay.
And a very close friend. So this is I'm talking about 1969, 70, 71, 72, 73, please young country. And you cannot imagine, at least once a month, there used to be a huge party at Santosh Kumar's house. Either birthday, his younger brother also lived with him, his 2 sisters lived in that family home. Sabia Khanum and him lived in Shahjahan.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and I used to go all the time because it was 5 minutes walk, and my parents were very happy that, you know, we can just walk around in their house. Before that, before we moved to our own home in Muslim town, our home was rented to Mary Sultana and Darbar.
Oh.
So we knew all of them very well. I can tell you, as a school child, there were all these actresses walking, and all of them, because they were the royal family of
Yeah.
But I was just mesmerized. Beautiful clothes, glamour exuding, and extreme good behavior.
Ali, that answers your question about my fascination with Rani.
Yeah, right.
You know, there.
I still remember that from all the actresses I would see there at that time, the memory that is there always in my mind is
She always, you know, was standing apart. You know, she had a different aura, I think, you know, from all the other heroines.
maybe dozen times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always in different roles.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. We just have 2 quick questions because we are running out of time. And I think there was one.
I just wanted to ask, Zalzala was also by her, right?
Yes, Zalzala was also by
But
her.
you didn't add anything in there.
I mean, there were like many more films.
Yeah, but if you wanted to have like a feminist thing kind of thing,
Yeah.
it was like Tehzeeb and Zalzala was very
Yeah.
separate at that time.
Sorry. Thank you. Last question from Babar. Okay.
Rabia is here.
Last, I'm Babar.
Thank you. Haroon, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant presentation.
Thank you.
Most interesting, most informative, and very well put together.
Thank you.
सिंपल से सवाल हैं 2. आपने फरमाया था बीच में कि at during a certain time Rani was the leading actress. From what year to what year approximately do you think this was? And which one do you think was Rani's most successful?
Okay, commercially you mean successful? Commercially, I would think, you know, the most.
Fame-wise, it's been
I think, you know, that would be Umrao Jan. Everybody remembers her by that role. It is such an iconic film, such an iconic role. All the songs were so iconic that everybody remembers her by that. 67 onwards, like I said, she started becoming a leading lady. 60s, early 70s, mid 70s, that she was, you know, reigning as the supreme heroine. Before Shabnam came on in the scene. Suraya Bhupali is my personal favorite, like I said, you know.
From what year?
I think it was early 70s, 73, 72, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rabia, I'm sorry, sir. We can continue discussion afterwards, but we have to finish. We have to thank you. Last question, Rabia. Thank you.
Last question is that one thing which I found very prominent and very evident was that Rani's aura and her fame and her story. The one thing, being an artist myself, the thing which I discovered that she made a song on Mohenjo-daro.
Yeah.
Right? And on the dancing girl. So उस वक्त के जो डायरेक्टर्स थे उनके पास इस तरह की रिसर्च वगैरह थी that they had gone to Mohenjo-daro, they were studying Mohenjo-daro, the civilization that they were trying to put in the cinemas.
Yes. And you know, again, if the more you read about it, you would come across so many films which were actually based on literature stories. So Manto's, I think, you know, one of the films that we talked about, I'm forgetting which one is it, but you know, Manto's story would be adopted to become a film. Or Faiz Sahab was part of, you know.
Mohenjo-daro की dancing girl है, उसके ऊपर उनका इतना अच्छा focus किया है. It's such a big symbol.
Of course.
You know,
Yeah.
past 7,000 years.
We don't give them as much credit as we should, you know. Our cinema has been great. There were these glorious years of Pakistani cinema, beautiful films made, and I think we need to be aware of this and take pride in this and own it.
Can I ask you if you
the verdict is still out.
I think we'll keep that for the next event. Haroon, I hope we'll see you again with the current cinema. Thank you very much. And now I hand over to Parveen. Please.
Haroon, thank you so much. You've taken us back in time.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Little token for you.
Thank you so much. Thank
I
you.
hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope next year we can rope him in again. It's fine, it's fine. I hope we can rope him in again for some program.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Lux Girls, that is,
Lux Girls.
it's beautiful.
So thank you so much for being here, for being a wonderful audience. We are coming to the end of the Asian Study Group year in May, and we have a closing event on May the 30th, which will be a rollicking affair, hopefully. It's also in Serena. It's also in Serena, and there are very, very few tickets available. So if anybody is interested, I think Raza still has some. So if you're interested at all, the brochure's out there.